Hello, thank you for letting me come here today. I'm so excited to be here. Before I get started, I'm going to ask the interpreter to not speak while I sign, just so you guys can get a feel for what signing looks like. Okay, well, this isn't supposed to be interpreted, but first I'm going to sign for everyone, and you guys can just sit back, relax, and listen to my lecture. Okay, I'm going to ask the interpreter to start speaking for me again. Thank you. So for a couple minutes, or for a few seconds, you guys were thinking, what is the interpreter? What is she saying? The interpreter's not speaking. This is more of a lesson. I want you guys to know what it feels like and emphasize that the interpreter is not only here for me because I can't speak, but she's also here because you cannot hear or you cannot understand sign. So now you guys understand why the interpreter is here, to give all of us communication. And if you have a question, the interpreter is going to assign your question to me, and then I will send back to her, and she will speak my answer. So I just wanted to emphasize and tell you guys exactly, the purpose of the interpreter. It's really important that everyone knows that the interpreter is not only here for the deaf, but also for those who cannot understand sign. Okay, I'm going to ask some multiple choice questions, and I want you guys to think about which answer is right. Please don't feel like this is a test and you have to worry about getting things right or wrong. It's not like that. It's just an informational lecture. Now, this lecture is only an hour long, so we're not really going to be able to go deep into depth, and you're not going to walk out of here knowing everything there is to know about the subject, but you guys are going to have a little bit of information on the subject. Like I've already said, we're not going to go really in depth in everything, but if there's something that you guys are interested about, please, when you leave, go do your own research, see what else you can find about the subject. And then if you've got questions today while you're sitting here, feel free to ask me. Go ahead. And if I can answer them, I will. Today I don't want anyone to hesitate asking me questions. I don't want you to feel like we're talking about sex and you can't really ask any questions. No, it's a very laid back atmosphere today. Feel free to ask me any questions you'd like. I'm going to start asking everyone some multiple choice questions. So when I give you a question and you believe you know the answer, raise your hand to which multiple choice it is, and then I will count how many people raise their hand for each one. My first question: what do you believe is the best word or the best term for a person who cannot hear? A. Deaf. B. Hard of hearing. C. Hearing impaired. D. Physically impaired. Or I don't know. If you just don't know what a person who cannot hear would be called. Well, everyone who believes that a person who cannot hear is called deaf, just raise your hand for me. Okay, we've got about 10. Now raise your hand if you think a person who cannot hear is hard of hearing. Raise your hand. No, you guys realize everyone has to vote, right? Still, no one thinks a person who cannot hear is called hard of hearing? Okay, moving on. Hearing impaired, anyone who believes a person who cannot hear is hearing impaired, raise your hand. Okay, we've got about 3. If you believe a person who cannot hear is hearing impaired, raise your hand. Or, sorry, physically impaired, raise your hand. No, we've got none. And last but not least, who does not know what a person who cannot hear is called? A person who cannot hear is called? No, no one. The appropriate term for a person who cannot hear is deaf. And that includes a person who has accepted the deaf culture and uses ASL, or American Sign Language, which is known as ASL, on a regular basis. And that is a general term for people who are deaf and are involved in the community and use the language and do not try to pretend they can hear or do not try to hear. They've accepted their deafness. If we look at the entire population of America, there are 6 million Americans, and they range from everything from hearing to hard of hearing to actually deaf. Still looking at that spectrum, there's 6 million Americans and then about 40,000 um, people of America who have some sort of hearing loss. And then there are about 4,000 deaf Americans. We're going to move on to our next question. Next question is, how many of you guys believe that there is one universal sign language? True or false? Raise your hand for true. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. How many people believe that there is more than one universal? How many people believe that there is one universal sign language? All believe it's true. If you said that there was, or everyone said that there was not one universal sign language, and you're correct. There is a sign language for different parts of Europe, and there's the American Sign Language, which we know to be as ASL. ASL has its own language, its own grammar, the facial markers, and now the morphemes and the different body shifts actually represent different things in the ASL syntax. Now, most interpreters don't just automatically pick up sign language. It's something they actually have to work on, just like learning any other language. And sometimes I'll be presenting and I will see the interpreter hold up her hand to represent that she needs to have a second to catch up with me because she's a little behind, and then she'll keep that what is known as lag time throughout most of the presentation. The interpreter needs that lag time because let's look at the English word run, for example. You can run with your dog, you can have a runny nose, the sink faucet has running water. You can run in a race. There's a variety of different ways that run can be used, and the interpreter needs to wait till she gets enough information in the sentence before she can start interpreting it. moving on to our next question. How many people think that deaf people can be expert, skilled, perfect lip readers? Raise your hand, true or false. Raise your hand if you think it's true. Got about 10. And now false, raise your hand. Okay, we've got about 6, 7, 8 people. The answer is true. Only about 30% of what is spoken can actually be read on your lips without any other hearing clues. That's not a lot, so it's hard to get a lot of information with that. Now let's play a game. I'm going to say 2 words or mouth 2 words, and then you've got to guess what I say. Okay, now I said both words. The first word that I said, take a guess. Who can believe what I said? Then raise your hand. Let me know. Okay, I've got yes. Some people said I said yes. I've got a person who's saying test, sick. There's a variety of different possibilities of what could I have actually have mouthed. The second word, what do you guys think I said? A lot of people think I said sex, and the other is six. The first word I actually said was six, and then the second word I said was sex. There's a big difference between six and sex. Can you imagine what would happen if the only way you were understanding the message was trying to read the lips and all you got was that word, the six or sex or test? You wouldn't know what it was. And a lot of people, it's a big misunderstanding that all deaf people completely understand lip reading because it's a misconception. So a lot of time the deaf will ask for people to write notes back and forth to better facilitate communication. I've got a personal story of an example where something's a misunderstanding because of this happened. One day I was going on the bus and I got on the bus and I asked the bus driver how much it was to ride the bus, and I couldn't really understand what he said. He was mumbling, not really speaking clearly, and I guessed what he said was 50 cents. And I sat down and then I noticed the guy behind me who was waiting to get on the bus got on for free. And that's because the bus was actually 15 cents, not 50 cents. So I mistakenly got taken advantage of.